Thank you so much, Ewan. There are no clear statistics about learning difficulties and disabilities in South Africa, but we do know between 10 to 20% of children have difficulty learning at school. So just in order to get our words right, I'm not going to call it disabilities this morning, but I'm going to call it difficulties. But that's basically anything where a child is either restless at school and they find it hard to learn, or even when we think of their concentration in the room. But to narrow this down, we've got our experts in the house, Dr. Darren Green.
Good morning.
Morning, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Concentration and learning abilities. What impacts our abilities?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is people don't understand what a normal development task is for children in specific age groups. So you don't know whether the behavioural manifestation in the classroom or not being able to concentrate or being distracted easily, for example, is normal for that age group or not. And I think a lot of parents need to be educated about that first.
So what do we look out for if we think of learning abilities? Is it a child just misbehaving? Is it a child not concentrating? Ja, ek onthou toe ons klein was, jy het sommer pak gekry as jy nie luister nie.
I know, that was the problem, I think, because we didn't know about the underlying problem. So often the first sign that we discover is actually not by ourselves noticing things, but rather the teacher or the person at school.
Right.
So often parents only see the first bad report. When you do homework with your children, you can start picking up things like spelling difficulties. You can start picking up things like language problems, problems with the naming, the fluency of speech, problems with repetition, for example. So, you've got to spend time with your child to actually notice these things. An inability to do sums and to write and spell with dyslexia, for example, is often missed because the people caring for our children are our teachers and our educational system.
And they see what our kids are going through. 083-9133728. That's our telephone number. And this morning, if our folks are calling in, just remember that some of our kiddies are still at home listening to you speak about them. So 083-9133728 if you want to ask Doctor questions or maybe perhaps comment about what we're talking about this morning. But how can we help our parents? I mean, what's the difference between a learning difficulty and perhaps a slow learner?
Yes, so people have different ways and mechanisms of remembering things. So if you have an inability to focus or concentrate on something, you will have difficulty naturally laying down a new memory. So the old parrot fashion learning of repetition works for some people, and the slim kinders in die klas, the clever children always used to just repeat lines and lines of textbooks, for example. But there are other people that are visual learners that use mind maps to learn, for example. And then you have people that are moving or kinesthetic learners, those that need to move. You'll find people fidgeting or tapping their foot or even chewing the back of their pen while they're trying to learn. So the type of learner that you are is very important to recognize early on in your life, and then to maximize your unique skills in establishing good memory.
I'm glad you're pointing out the different types of learning that's out there, but what are the different types of learning difficulties, or the old word disabilities? What are the different types of...
There are quite a few. We've got scholastic disabilities. We also then have attention deficit, and then ADHD, which everyone refers to so readily nowadays, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Then you have non-verbal learning disorders as well. Along with that, you get things like dyslexia, dyscalculia, and so forth. And those non-verbal functional learning disabilities are very, very specific in exactly which facet of learning, whether it's executive function or memory or concentration that's impaired.
And we want to know more, and we also want to hear from you this morning. 083-9133728, that's our telephone number this morning. We're going to keep talking about this topic to inform and also to educate all of us. But there's loads more happening on our Feel Good Breakfast show. Katlego, what you got?